Thank you for coming to the evening. This is, statute requires that we have a public hearing. It's an unaccredited district at least twice a year, so we're having this one in the fall. There'll be another one in the spring. I am Charles Pierce, and I serve as superintendent for the Normandy Schools Collaborative. And again, we welcome you to the night. You'll see we've been very intentional about the night and putting you in tables from the beginning, because we want to be sure we work this as a working night, and then we'll of course conclude with some opportunity for just open dialogue, or rather open comment. But again, welcome to each one of you. I have the privilege of introducing a number of people who have joined us tonight, all of which are collaborators, and I'm going to start by, I know Dr. Vic Lentz is here, State Board Education member. Would you please stand? And Dr. Lentz, I didn't see any other board members come in. Are they? Okay, just wanted to be sure. And then we want to also acknowledge the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, beginning with the Commissioner, Dr. Margie Van Dieven, if you would please stand. Joining me in the first 30 minutes of the presentation tonight would be Dr. Chris Neal, who is Deputy Commissioner, if you'd please wave at us. And then others who have joined us from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, T.J. Spalti, am I saying it okay? Mr. Bill Thornton, Sarah Potter. We have two of our area supervisors with us tonight, Dr. Maureen Clancy May, area supervisor. Dr. Tim Ricker, also area supervisor. And then taking copious notes for us tonight is Ms. Susie Zess. One collaborator for the night is the organization Beyond Housing. We recognize that to continue the idea of partnering, it made sense to work a partnership that has begun work with the district for a while and actually became more active after the spring presentation, I believe, when we recognized we need to begin having some more ongoing conversations with the community. So they facilitated that model for several meetings in the spring, and then they're also collaborating with us tonight. So Mr. Chris Kramer, CEO, Beyond Housing. And I'm not sure, I'm going to say one introduction for last. Could I just get a hand of all the Beyond Housing team that's here? Please stand for a minute. Only because you've been working on this process. Thank you very much. Meeting goals. These are our goals for tonight: to focus on gaining school accreditation and progress of the accountability plan. We need to share with you tonight the accountability plan, and then we need to engage you in some dialogue around how you can specifically assist us in implementing our plan. When I begin my presentation, you'll see that our plan is still a fairly lean model. We have 4 core elements and strategies, and around those is what the dialogue and work is going to be about tonight. So we'll be looking for you to do that when we conclude the conversation. The whole focus is about accreditation. What kinds of ways we can work in order for us to meet the timeline and become accredited. And I want to say to you what we say in the organization: accreditation is a short-term goal. In fact, I'm going to pretend I'm at church. Turn to your neighbor and say, accreditation is a short-term goal. But we recognize that unless we meet that short-term goal, there won't be any conversation about what the collaborative will be like 5, 10, 15 years from now. So that's the focus of tonight. That is the focus of tonight. That's what the dialogue is about. What we can do, how you can assist us, how we can be innovative about achieving that short-term goal, and then from there we'll go forward. At this time, I would like to invite the person who will be facilitating this evening for us. I'm going to ask Ms. Von Treese McDowell, Director of Community Engagement for Beyond Housing, if she'd come forward at this time.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so as Dr. Pearson said, I represent an organization known as Beyond Housing. A lot of you guys are familiar with us. We're a community development organization. We have been working in the footprint for about 16 years now, and we've been working very closely with the district over the last 5 years through our initiative known as the 24-1. And that's 24 municipalities with a shared vision of strong communities, engaged families, and successful children. That last piece is most definitely why we are here tonight. So I'm gonna go over a few logistics for you guys. On your tables, you should have a few things. If you did not get an agenda as you came in, please raise your hand and we can bring you one. There should be an agenda for this evening. You should have an FAQ on your table. We reached out to as many people as we could before this meeting to gather some questions that you all had for the district. We know that people have been wanting to meet and express themselves, so we wanted to get as much in this evening as we could. So we tried to gather some questions at the beginning, and those questions and answers are on your table. Both DESE and Normandy got together to answer those questions. You also should have a facilitator at each table. Facilitators, please raise your hand. So these folks represent staff, partners, parents, elected officials in your community. So a very diverse group of people that will be facilitating a conversation this evening with you all. So as Dr. Pearson stated, we are here to discuss how we can progress and move forward towards accreditation. But of course, the district has their list of things that they have to work on. But tonight, we want you all to kind of take that list and figure out what would be your priority area. Because at the end of the day, we definitely still want to hear from you. But then if that's your priority area, then how do you see yourself plugging in to impact that area? So I know we may have a lot of emotions and we may have a lot of things going on in our minds about what's going on with our district or our children or our neighbors. But what can we do to move forward? Because we gotta make progress. And that short-term goal is accreditation. So really quickly, let me go through the agenda with you. So you will have a presentation from Dr. Pearson first, and then you will have a presentation from a DESE representative, and then we will transition into the community roundtable discussion. So that discussion will happen amongst yourselves at your table. Your facilitator should have a green sheet for you, and on that sheet has the 3 questions that we're going to address tonight. We ask that you identify a note taker from amongst your group to take notes, and then we ask that if it's not that note taker, that you identify someone at your table that can report back on what you would like to share. It will not stop there, but we need to work. That is our working session to talk about what we can do, but we will move forward into comments and questions. So we will allow you all time to speak. Keep in mind we have limited time, so we won't be able to get to everyone if everyone has a question. If everyone doesn't have a question, hopefully we can get to as many of you as possible. If you have a question and we're unable to get to you this evening, you should have small white slips on your table. Leave your question. DESE and Normandy has agreed to answer those questions or seek out answers and post them on their websites. The websites are listed at the bottom of your agenda. I recommend that you continue to go to those websites even if you don't have a question, just to be informed and updated. As you come up to ask your question or to give your comment, again, time. You will be timed. We have a real nice clock behind us. We are going to allow everyone 2 minutes for your comment. Just out of respect, there are going to be a lot of people here that may want to share. We ask that you respect those 2 minutes. Is everyone in agreement? Well, hopefully you all are in agreement. So I'm going to bring up Dr. Pearson now so that he can share his presentation with you about the district and the accountability plan. Okay.
What you have on the screen are the final APR numbers for the 2015 year. And actually, there's as you can see, 2013 points and percentages, 14 and 15, so you can see that there was progress made in terms of the 2014-15 school year. You take a look, this is more of a breakout, and I should point out that there certainly are packets of this presentation available at your tables if you want to follow more closely, but a deeper analysis of where those points came from. You'll see that in academic achievement in the areas of English language, arts, math, and social studies, we received 9 progress points. Because our district is 100% free and reduced, we also received some points Under subgroup achievement, 3 points. College and career readiness, which involves everything from ACT preparation, dual enrollment, dual credit courses, restoration of some courses. We received 8 points there. Attendance, we received no points. So we recognize, and as you will probably recall at I think a board meeting, maybe actually it was our last community forum, Dr. Carter Oliver shared with you our attendance initiative to address this. So we anticipate points in that space next time. And then the largest amount of points came from the efforts we made to increase our graduation rate. We received 22.5 points on a 4-year average for graduation. So this is an analysis of how we achieve those particular points, both in terms of actual points and in terms of percentages. Again, because the preliminary data came out and other things, we pretty much unfolded this over several months. And so a lot of you probably have seen this over and over again, but we wanted to be sure we formally included it as a part of this particular presentation. Mick Willis has already shared with you, at least for those of you that were present for the board meeting, some of the overall ideas behind our status in terms of our financial summary. I will say that our current budget for the 15-16 year was $55,799,000, and so we're looking at where we are at this time of the year. I won't read each one of the lines. I would just point you to the last bullet. Current receipts, $0.2 million less than budgeted at this time. And again, in terms of expenditures, I'll again just point you to the last bullet. And then finally, balances. So that is our current financial status for the Normandy Schools Collaborative. This I would really point you to look at the packet. This is a set of our goals for next year. You'll see that we put the word stretch there. Candidly, we have set some fairly aggressive goals for English, language arts, and math. While you would typically aim for maybe a 10 or 12% increase, we can't do that and get to where we need to go. So you'll see that we're aiming for increasing our MPI from 242.8 points at the end of this year to 300 at the end of next year. So if you walk your way down it, you can see that those are some fairly aggressive goals. The reality is this: we could have set safer goals and therefore had a greater chance of hitting them. But safer goals would not get us to where we need to go in the timeline. So a collaborative group of individuals worked and decided that this was going to be the way we go. The good thing is we talk about interventions and new models in the district. We believe we have the capacity to achieve the 28.5 points we now need in order to reach accredited status by the timeline we have in front of us. In order to make this happen, we have several partnerships. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but I did just want to share with you a little bit about who is partnering with us in the district. You'll recall in June that we received from the governor a $500,000 grant to support literacy. We took that money and invested it in a curriculum called Wonders, which provides material to support the implementation of balanced literacy in the district. Balanced literacy is a curriculum approach to English language arts that focuses both on reading and writing. But it can be very challenging if you don't have the necessary previous knowledge or even extensive teaching experience, so you're able to manage that system. We identified Wonders as a model, as material that will support teachers in implementing that, so that grant supported us in doing that. We also invested in a social studies text support, and we also invested in Read 180 as an intervention. We have a reading problem in the Normandy Schools Collaborative, and that data will come up in a moment. But we have identified that we have children who are struggling. Reading interventionists come along and help. Small group instruction in the classroom comes along and help. But Read 180 is now supporting struggling readers at both the the 7th and 8th grade center, as well as in the high school. The list goes on. Beyond housing, currently is financing family engagement liaisons. These are individuals in our district who identify students who may be struggling for any of a number of reasons, whether or not they don't have access to uniform, they may not have food, they may not have housing. These particular students and their families are identified for additional support. I'll say this about them as well as everyone else that we have an MOU with. We recognize that wraparound services are critical to the district, but if a child is being mentored by an organization, if a family is being supported, then we are holding that partner organization accountable for being sure that those children are meeting our 90-90 goals and being sure that those children are performing as well as they can academically. And this is tough because we have a 100% free and reduced population, which carries with it a lot of challenges. It does not mean that our children are not intellectually able. It just means they have to push through a great deal in order to achieve what we need. Also listed on the screen is the Regional Business Council, who supported us $20,000 grant to support middle school and high school English language arts teachers in purchasing books that children can in turn carry home and then begin literacy libraries in their own homes. So we thank them for that. That same organization supported 29 of our students taking dual enrollment classes this summer. Centene Corporation now has 7 of our high school seniors in an internship and looking to expand those numbers this coming spring for both juniors and seniors. Project Lead the Way is there, supported by Monsanto and Express Scripts. The STEM TQ initiative is really a focus on our teachers getting supported on how to integrate STEM into our curriculum. This list is structured, and I've only put on the list those who will actually assist us in moving towards academic success. So for those children who are struggling psychologically, BJC Behavioral Services is there. Bridges offer support for children who want to go to college, and this is again through UMSL. Their psychology department is working to support us around literacy as well. Big Brothers Big Sisters, Girls Inc., Better Family Life, Parents as Teachers, all partners designed to support us in moving the district forward. This particular slide identifies, as I've said earlier, the partnerships we have that support dual enrollment. So we're currently working with the University of Missouri, St. Louis Community Colleges, and Lindenwood to support a number of our students who are in either dual credit, or dual enrollment classes, or actually taking classes on the community college campus. And then finally, there was a lot of conversation I guess would say late summer, early fall, about the St. Louis Regional Education Collaborative. These are those school districts who came alongside us and said, how can we support you in some kind of reciprocity? So where we were saying, where we're sending them tuition, they're working with us to provide services, even though they're getting the tuition. So that includes a number of things. We have, in one of our schools, we've had 1.5 instructional coaches assigned there by the district. Another school had a single instructional coach assigned, and there's conversation going on with the district right now to assign a math instructional coach to one of our buildings. The Parkway School District does collaborative walkthroughs with us, where once a quarter they come through Lucas Crossing, and we work with them to identify what's going on with balanced literacy. Mentoring is going on. One of our principals is being mentored by one of the principals from one of the collaborative districts. Instructional resources, access to the software programs they have. One district in that collaborative went on and did a voluntary tuition cap. And then data analysis from Education Plus, where they're working with us on a quarterly basis to identify exactly what our data means. You'll see evaluate data in a moment. They help us identify and go deeper about how our children are performing, even when we look at our MPI, where those children grew and where those children did not grow. Our accountability plan has 4 elements. The first one is leadership. Leadership in our plan simply means that our principals are being equipped to give solid feedback to teachers about how to improve instruction. The next part of that plan is our collaborative culture. All this is data teams. Research tells us that if teachers look at student performance data, identify where students are struggling, what students are not struggling, what's helping them to make it, and learn how to do that very effectively, then we can move achievement forward. Because when you finish looking at data, then you start looking at what instructional strategies can meet the needs of children. The third element is curriculum and assessment. This past summer, we completed and had the board to approve a curriculum in the core areas. We now have pacing guides. We now have a framework for the curriculum. We now have a scope and sequence, in terms of an older term, to help direct instruction in the district. And then finally, there's effective instruction, and this is basically research-based strategies. We now know what kinds of strategies work best, and so this becomes the fourth strategy or element of our plan. The difference is one can look at these in an isolated way, but we understand that they must be seen in a coherent way. So when you are teaching principals how to give good feedback to teachers, you in turn inform effective instruction. When you are assessing data from students and then teachers are developing strategies, you are informing effective instruction. When you're then looking at your curriculum to be sure that the materials that are in the curriculum and the strategies that you are working with are aligned, all of that makes for a more coherent model. When you study school work, and particularly turnaround work, you have to deal with what's called a standards-based instructional system, and that's what we now have in the collaborative. The curriculum is based on the Missouri Learning Standards. We have assessments in place, monthly assessments, and working with teachers on how to develop their own weekly assessments. I won't read them all to you. I don't want to do that. I'll just point out to you at the bottom. If you have professional development, if you have teacher leaders being trained, then that supports this particular system. And what we now know is that we have a model that aligns both that model and then it allows the areas of effective leadership, collaborative culture, co-curriculum and assessment, and effective instruction. So that's our accountability plan. Backtrack for a moment, yeah. The first strategy on the leadership, where we are currently. The second round of evaluations is now taking place. All our principals are expected to give all teachers at least 2 interactions of feedback each week. That feedback involves 30-second feedback, which is basically affirming what was seen in the classroom, 5-minute feedback, which affirms but then also talks about why it was effective. For example, principal walks into a room, sees your teacher working, sees the teacher suddenly have children hold up a whiteboard to indicate how many of them have the correct answer. That principal then can look at her and say, I noticed that. I noticed that there was a certain point where you pulled all the children in to find out what they knew. That's called an overt response. Then that principal would say, that's a great strategy because it helps children understand what they know, but it also helps you to understand who does and who does not know. Please keep that up. That's the structure of strong feedback. And then longer feedback is when you start moving into adding practice to the teacher, or in some cases saying you need to stop what you were doing that's not as effective. Leadership continues. Our principals are being trained through our principals meetings and pull-out sessions around the new Missouri education evaluation system. We're using that time to explore depth of knowledge. In other words, is what the child doing lower level learning where you just memorize, or is it higher level learning where you're talking about the child applying the knowledge? Student engagement, is the child very engaged, meaning doing busy work, where you can't really tell, you may see the hands moving, but the brain is not engaged. And then again, training about how to provide frequency of feedback. We do this through building walkthroughs. Our instructional coaches are in place, and then I already mentioned before the planning and working with teachers around feedback. Data teams is a collaborative culture. Each one of our buildings has a leadership team. They are data teams or teams of teachers, either grade levels or in terms of content, working in each one of the buildings, looking at student data. I will confess to you that we are not as far as we need to be with this part. It has been a challenge as we have worked our way through trying to figure out the best ways to apply this model. But what we do know is that this model will move us forward because it does work. When teachers look at what students are actually doing and move past their feelings about it, I think, but what data tells them is working, then we can move children forward. So what you see on the screen are basically the structures behind data teams, how we make use of PD days, how we meet after school in some cases. Curriculum and implementation, or rather an assessment. Already mentioned to you that we adopted a curriculum. On the screen you see listed the frameworks, the pacing guides. We're currently identifying now which parts of those curriculum we want to load first, but all teachers have access to the curriculum. We have a new model called InGrade, and it means that our curriculum can now be accessed online, and eventually when it's fully up and running, it also means that parents can access it as well, and students. Curriculum and assessment continues. These are key strategies to support the implementation of the curriculum. I mentioned to you already balanced literacy and wonders. I did not mention my own reading, which is a great way to support independent reading by children online. Read 180 already referenced as a support for children who are struggling in reading, but under math we have the exact same model, Math 180 and ALEX. Both of these are academic models used to support our children. Next are the assessments that we're going to we work with this year. The main assessment is Evaluate. Evaluate tests our children in English, language arts, and in math. Grades 2 through 12 are tested monthly. The K1 is only tested 3 times a year. The model works like this. The first month, September, half of the standards in the state were tested. In October, the other half was tested. And then in November, the first half is tested again. We now can begin to take a look and see if our children show progress from the September and November and then October and December. And that model will continue throughout the year. If our children show proficiency from 60 to 80% in Evaluate, we can predict that they in turn will be proficient on the map. So this is how that tool is getting used, and it is combined with the assessments that our teachers are creating. Under effective instruction, we're still working with the same strategies of Rutherford, Marzano, and Hattie. These are research-based. Teachers are receiving feedback. I've already referenced depth of knowledge and student engagement, so I won't cover any of that. And that brings us to data. Evaluate is our model. Evaluate is given monthly. We do the STAR for reading 3 times a year. Data teams are creating their own assessments, and then we're now adding student growth measures to the data teams. Student growth measures means that in a year, teachers will have as a part of their evaluation how their children are actually progressing academically. And so we're starting that process now in terms of data. We have a reading challenge. This data just confirms that. So when you take a look at the trends here, you can see that from 7th grade to 12th grade, we have a significant number of children who are reading in the below basic. Our identification is why are they reading below basic? What are the interventions that they need individually? And that's what we have to do as work this year. But the data is what it is. Our children in the district struggle with reading. This is one assessment. When we take a look at achievement, VLA, you'll see again when you look at the numbers, September, again remembering, these are not comparable at this time. September tested 1/2 of the standards and rigor of reading, and then October tested the other, but you can still see that we have a significant number of children. This just correlates with the other STAR reading. We have to do some work around reading in the district. And what do we know? We know that we have to use our reading, we have to equip our teachers to do the balanced literacy. We have reading interventionists in each one of the buildings. We have Read 180 that is supporting children both at the 7th and 8th grade center and at the high school. We have to address this reading challenge. The upside, though, is that the data lets us know exactly what strands they're missing. We can identify how many children are struggling with what. We can pull those students out in terms of analyzing the data. We can identify which teachers have those students and work around getting something which literally amounts to an individual educational plan for each one of those children to move them forward. But candidly, we have a reading problem in the collaborative. And that is not unusual for a high poverty population. I will say it multiple times. It is not about their intellect. They can get it. It is about how effectively we can frame the environment so that they have an opportunity to get it and show what they know. This trend continues in the math. Again, same structure. September was 1/2 of the math standards. October was the second half. I should mention, you'll notice that the numbers were larger in September than October. The larger numbers reflect the fact that the kindergarten and first grade tested then, but the kindergarten and first grade won't test again until December. So that's the reason for the difference in numbers. When I began the year, I reframed what we were doing around the areas of achievement, citizenship, college, and career readiness. Under citizenship, we look at attendance and we look at discipline. So you'll take a look, you'll notice what our attendance numbers are. You'll see compared this time to last year. I'll point you to the bottom because we have had a lot of information, a conversation in this district about discipline. Our out-of-school suspension numbers are down because we're making better use of parental engagement, better use of in-school suspension, or some kind of in-school remedy for those children who are struggling. But we acknowledge that we still have children who need to have some skills taught to them about how to address their emotional challenges. One of the things we're doing is even in early childhood through first grade, there are many children coming to us who have serious emotional issues. They don't know how to address their pain, their problems. We have PBIS in place, but there are children who actually need some kind of a social emotional curriculum. We're identifying that now because if we can address that in the early grades, in the same way we attempt to address reading challenges in the early grades, by the time they get to fourth grade, then we'll have more tools in place, they'll have more skills in place to address their own challenges. Discipline-wise, when I compare 14-15 to this year, you can see the difference. Of course, the number of children in the district is slightly smaller, but the percentage of children experiencing OSS in our district is smaller as well. 15-16 sees 5% of our students as of the end of October experiencing out-of-school suspension. The transfer program, already alluded to in Mick's earlier conversation, we had 564 students who were placed and could transfer. We currently have 521 that have actually transferred. Now, there can be a number of reasons for that, but what I like to hope is that there are some parents who had the option, decided, let's see if this place is going to be any different at all this year. And so they're giving us a chance to show what's possible. So we appreciate that. Mr. Willis mentioned earlier that the 564 students, we budgeted $7.1 million to support that. 43 less students means that we can save the district over $700,000. College and career readiness, another factor for our for our accreditation. This list is just a list of all the students involved in dual enrollment, dual credit, advanced placement, honors courses at the high school. We're excited about this. We're excited about the return of AP, but what we're working on now is getting the rigor in those courses up. We're excited about our children who are now actually taking classes on a college campus. We know that's going to be a key to adding rigor because they're doing something away from us and then still coming back to us and providing us an opportunity to benefit from what they're learning. One of the last areas I'll talk about is professional development. And these are all the things that we're doing in the district to support our teachers getting better. Again, I won't read the list to you. And we'll highlight new teacher orientation. We added that this year. We now have mentors. The mentors meet, the new teachers meet monthly. Instructional coaches in the budget. We're focusing on classroom management. We will be focusing on PD and cultural responsiveness for the third time in a larger group in January. And then finally, challenges and opportunities. Currently working with a team of people to help us organize our wraparounds. Our children have needs. But we recognize that we can't have 50 or 60 different agencies operating in the district and they not talk to each other. We can't do it. It doesn't make sense. Everybody is wanting to do good work, so we're working on a model that's going to allow all of those wraparounds to be more focused on helping a select group of children. It has happened organically already at the 7th and 8th grade center, already occurring there, where they're sitting and they're talking and they're actually being active in supporting the change of the culture. It's starting to happen at Lucas Crossing as some individuals sit down just last week to identify with the psychologists there what children need what children don't need what services do we need. So that process has already begun. The ongoing transfer program is still a challenge. As long as those funds are leaving our district, it means that there are things we'd like to do for teachers we can't do. It means that there are resources we'd like to have we can't have. It means that there are programs that we're going to have to bring back in slowly, such as Gifted. Gates is back at the 7th and 8th grade center. AP and honors are back at the high school. We now need to do something about those bright children at the elementary level who are not getting treated fairly yet around giftedness. So we need to bring that back in. Staffing support. Our salaries are not competitive. Our salaries are not competitive. We need to figure out other ways to be sure we can support people who are working in a challenging context. We need to figure out other ways to bring motivation and incentive to them. And then finally, I will share with you what I'm calling the career pipeline. I'm going to come back to that. Actually, let me do this first. This is what we're going to be asking you to talk about in a few minutes in a small group. We're asking you to talk about how you can assist us in doing this work. And I would just point you to the last bullet up there. I'm a broken record about this, learning at home. For everyone that's here, if you can do this in your own home and support someone else, be sure that children are reading every single day. Every single day. On weekends, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve. Our children need to be reading every single day. One of the challenges for many of our children is they don't get to read as much in summer, so they come back 6 weeks behind. You can do that. In fact, the truth is only you can do that because we're not in the home with you. Create spaces in your home where they can do homework. Don't do the homework for them, but create spaces where they can do it. Set up parameters like that. Access the library. If we can address the reading on both ends, and we're working as a district, because one of the things I'm asking you to do now, you can't do as well without us. We're going to need to work on doing a better job of giving you as parents strategies to use with your children when they read. What kind of question do you ask a child before they read? What kind do you ask them after they read? But this is the list of opportunities that we want you to do for us. We just got this news a few days ago as I close my conversation. There's a funder who's going to be giving us $250 in the college savings account for every Normandy High School student this year. Those funds can be used when that child graduates for a four-year college, community college, or vocational. They're going to be giving us funds for ACT prep, both this year and next year. And then finally, they're going to be supporting multiple takings of the ACT test. That's an exciting partnership for our families. And I thought this was a great place for me to end around wraparounds. That's what those agencies can do, but what you'll be talking about in just a moment is what you can do. This is the last slide, and this is not about accreditation. This is about after we get that done. In my mind, there's no reason that our children in early childhood can't have a path from early childhood through our system right into a university such as in UMSL. We're having that conversation. Or there are two other universities who want to partner with us. There's no reason why that can't happen. And then there's no reason why they can't come out of that place and go into somewhere. Can you imagine early childhood through our system to UMSL to Express Scripts? I call it the career pipeline. That can happen. We just had to have a dialogue. So when we move past just thinking about accreditation and start thinking about where we can go beyond accreditation, this is the model that we're going to be bringing to you as a community. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the last of my voice you're going to hear for a moment. I'm going to invite now Dr. Chris Neal.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Pearson, it is both a privilege to follow you and a little scary. That was a pretty exciting presentation. I'm the Assistant Commissioner for the Office of Quality Schools, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and up until the last couple of days, I was known as the new guy around there. I've been on the job a little less than 6 months. After a career of 32 years of education in the public schools. I was a band director for a while, and I ran buildings for a while, and then I ran districts for a while. More important than my career in education or my current job is the fact that every day when I get up in the morning, I'm a dad of 2 kids who married well and gave us, each of them, gave us granddaughters. And so the seriousness of the quality of education is very personal for me, just as it is for you. I will tell you, it's a privilege to be here with you tonight, and I thank you for coming out and being involved in the support of improvement of the Normandy School Collaborative Program. It's a privilege to be with my colleague Charles Pearson again, as I've gotten to know him over the last few months. I truly admire and respect the work and his leadership here. It's a privilege to be with you because I noted when I walked into the buildings last month that you have posted 5 pillars you hold as important aspects of the culture you intend to have here. That you hold the pillars accountability, collaboration, professionalism, trust, and respect as the way you will do business. It tells me a lot about you. It tells me that you will take responsibility. Now that's good. You take responsibility for the improvement of education for your sons and daughters and grandchildren. That you intend to do that by working as a team. It's the only way it'll get done. That you will do so professionally, that when you focus, you'll focus on what's good for kids and not what's good for grown-ups. That you intend to approach the work with an attitude of trust toward one another, which tells me you presume the other is even in the face of any disagreement, starting from a base of positive intentions. And finally, respect, which is so important for all of us. Not only for how we treat each other, but for what we teach our kids, because modeling is the most important teacher we have. Thank you for that approach. I thank you for that approach because it's the only way the work will get done. We do not have an unlimited timeline, neither for money nor the School Improvement Initiative. Accreditation is a short-term goal. The long-term goal is that career pipeline. The only way to get the short-term goal accomplished is with a sense of urgency and the seriousness of the pillars you've selected. I do need tonight, as a matter of official business, to share with you, and I don't think it's just official business based on the questions that we received, what it is the department is doing to support the efforts of improvement here in Normandy. I will tell you that our area supervisors, Dr. Clancy May, Dr. Ricker, sometimes as her substitute, are here every month to 6 weeks leading regional school improvement teams, ensuring that the plan you've seen on the board is worked properly, that data is analyzed properly, and that decisions are made for the sake of children. We have 3 additional specialists who monitor the use and the improvement progress of federal funds we call school improvement grants that come through our department. Those 3 people are here regularly offering candid feedback and encouragement and support. We have staff that comes out here regularly that includes finance staff and sometimes just informal visits. Dr. Pearson appears regularly before the State Board of Education to give accountability reports on your behalf. And I will tell you, I was there the last time he presented, and he was well received, and many, many compliments sent to him and to your district because of that. So I do find that there are encouraging things, even in the midst of the challenges and the urgency. When I came out last month to tour your buildings, one of the first people I met at the high school was the assistant principal. I believe his name's Carl Imhoff, and the first thing he said to me was, "Good to meet you, don't believe everything you read." And he's right. And he's right. I want to act as in some way a voice of encouragement to you, because what I found in your buildings was a sense of order, care for children, and an academic focus that is needed. Dr. Pearson was very clear that we need to get the foot on the gas pedal of rigor and not let up, but we've started the right direction. and I appreciate that very, very much. I appreciate, too, seeing in the plan that what's going on here is the improvement of staff, the stabilization of staff, investing in their abilities, making sure that what we teach and how we teach is the right thing. Those things are all necessary. And I appreciate, too, the frank talk he shared with you about the importance of reading with children. Even if you don't have all the reading strategies, just read. Just read. Read with them. Let them read to you. Ensure that they read. It's really a lot like running. Even if you don't have a running coach, if you just keep running, you'll get faster and you'll have greater endurance. Just read. Just read. I would encourage you to take the same approach with mathematics. It's not very hard to ask mathematical questions. Like, how much change do you think we'll get back from a $10 bill? As long as they are doing mental math, they're improving their skills. Get your kids to school. Get your kids to school. I love the improvement in the numbers, but when I looked at the original APR, it's obvious we earned no points there. That's an easy 10. That's an easy improvement. Get your kids to school. Encourage them when it's hard. Hard work is what they need. It's not what they like, it's what they need. Encourage them to work hard in school because this district is headed the right direction. Dr. Pearson, I think it's fair to say that I've shared anything that's of use tonight, and I doubt if anybody here came to see what I had to say. I think the important work will take place around the table, so I turn this back over to you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, not just for tonight, but for those meetings that have gone on in support of this district.
All right, thank you, Mr. Neal and Dr. Pearson, for your presentations. So, a few things that I heard. Well, the last thing was that the district is headed in the right direction. So that was good to hear from a DESE representative for myself. I don't know about you. But as Dr. Pearson was talking, there's a lot of information. We know that. A lot of data. We know that. But it's all very important to get a real understanding of what is happening in our district. So we see that there are areas of improvement that they are working on. And so now it's the time for us to talk about what we can do. And I know every time, because I know I've seen a lot of you guys come out, so all those things that Mr. Neal was talking about, I know you all are doing them. You guys come to the meetings a lot. So that means you all are dedicated, whether you're parents, partners, or just residents in the community, you all care, you're here for a reason. But sometimes I know we're like, well, what can I do? And that's what we're going to do tonight, talk about what it is that we can do, but amongst each other. And you may hear from each other some of the things that are already being done by a neighbor. Some things that jumped into my head as Pearson was talking, and he was talking about literacy and how we can move those numbers and how we can read to our kids. And it's not just happening in the home, but if Barbara Cotton, if you could raise your hand, put on blast. One of my co-workers, she's in the community engagement department, she goes out and she talks to our businesses in our community all the time. And she has quite a few that have said, I'll put books in my barber shop. I'll put books in my salon. I'll put books in my auto shop. Because we go in there with our children. And I will encourage them to read while they're waiting for their parents or while they're getting their hair cut. So there are ways to get involved and to do it. And sometimes because it's so much that needs to be done, we get clouded by it and we forget there are some little things that we can step up and do even if we don't have children in the district. So that's my soapbox. And then hearing about the college savings piece, amazing. So we know that one of the largest burdens in the way for our babies to go to school is the money. It costs a lot. I'm still paying my college education. I'm still paying for it, and I'm older. So to know that someone has stepped up, it's not going to solve the problem, but it can alleviate some of that stress if our babies are able to save and focus on what they should be focusing on, which is their academics, okay? So those are all the good things that I heard. I know there were a lot more, but I wrote down what really jumped out to me. So now I'm gonna ask the facilitators to get started, if you all can turn to your groups again. I know some of you all are burning to say something. I can see it in your faces. And you're going to get that time. We're going to have an opportunity for comments and questions. We're going to try to address those. But before we do that, we need to talk about what we're going to do, okay? There can be a lot of pointing the fingers, but this is a collective effort, and change is not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to just happen with the parents doing it or with the district doing it, okay? So you all have this green sheet at your table. There should only be one copy, because there only needs to be one person writing down your answers. You all have 3 questions, and they're related to everything Pearson just shared with us, specifically those 4 areas around accreditation that he's focusing on. And that's improving academic achievement, college and career readiness, attendance, and increasing the graduation rate. So what I want to hear from you, because clearly they can't pick and choose as a district what they want to tackle. They have to tackle them all at once. But what they want to know from you is, as parents, partners, community members, how would you prioritize that list? And as I said earlier, if you picked your number 1, there is a reason. And if that's your number 1, what are you going to do about it? Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss at our table. Then I want you all to pick someone that just has to say something, but the only thing they're going to say is what's on this green sheet, okay? And then after each table shares, this young lady is documenting all your responses because we want to know what you have to say. After that is shared, we'll get into your own personal comments and questions. I see it in your face. I'm calling you first. Okay? All right. You guys can go ahead and start talking. Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and move forward with sharing your responses. We have Ms. McCauley, if you can raise your hand. She's going to cover these 3 tables here. Then we have Ms. Sharifa in the back. She's going to cover the 3 tables in her area. And then Shantae will cover the tables over there. So whoever is your speaker, when you're ready, we're going to go ahead and get started. We can start on this end, Ms. McCauley.
Do I have to? Yes, please.
And if you guys, when you finish reading your responses, if you could keep your green papers on your table, we're going to take those, we're going to type up your responses so that DESE and Normandy will have this information. And if you want to share your name, that'd be great.
Wasn't quite ready to do that, but I'm Cheryl Peoples. And since I'm the first one up, this is table 1.
Okay.
Okay. So the thing that we thought was very important, I don't know if I need to hold it out like that. Yeah, I'm Cheryl Peoples. It was attendance. You know, I think attendance speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to, you know, our points. It speaks to our basic formula. It just speaks to a lot of things. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. And then learning at home. We need our parents to send our students to school ready to learn. And we don't know maybe if the home is the place that's saying learning is not important or whatever. But I know we have parent liaisons and different things, so I think home visits are great for that, so that we can see what the issues are at home, help our students there. And of course, academic achievement. That needs to be important. Where does that start? Well, that starts from the home. It starts from the student willing to learn. Starts with the teachers willing to teach. Respect from the teachers. Just a lot of things, but student academic achievement. And then the graduation rate, which we did get points on. So evidently we're doing that right. But I think everyone needs to know that it's not only graduating the student, but it's tracking them a couple of years out. That's important as well. And then college and career readiness. So you just want me to address the first question?
Your number 1.
Number 1?
And why it was your number 1.
So you can explain the second.
Okay, what was that? Oh, okay, yeah. We said attendance is number 1 because of the student is not present. They cannot learn. Oh, put it to my mouth. Oh, okay. I thought I was making the microphone scream. Oh, my time is up? Okay, well, number one.
Am I answering number one also, or?
Yes, ma'am. You're going to, so the question, you're going to share number 2, and what you're sharing is what was your top priority. So your number 1 priority, which will be your answer from number 1. And then you're going to tell us why that was your priority. So this group said attendance, because they think that's where everything starts. And then your number 3, you'll share that as well, which is ways that you can get involved in what they would have shared is impacting a child's attendance at school.
Okay. I guess we're table number 2, and we're the Strive for 95 team. And in case you didn't know, Strive for 95 is the attendance initiative in the district. So everybody remember that. You'll be tested on that shortly. Okay, our number 1 was also attendance, because, as was said, if they're not there, they can't learn or learn as much as we would want them to learn. So attendance, and that's probably everybody's number 1, I would think, at this point. And so we talked about ways to get them here. And we also said that since the Strive for 95 initiative is already in place, we need to do a better job of marketing that initiative. And we talked about Barbara Cotton, to use her name again. She heads up and meets with the businesses in the area. And if every business had Strive for 95 attendance in their businesses, just a poster, a simple thing, and we all buy into the Strive for 95 and just make this a community-wide effort. Everywhere that child went, everywhere that family goes, they see Strive for 95. The new cinema, Strive for 95. Everybody's buying into it so that we can get those kids here. And pretty soon the kids are going to be like, Mom, everybody's talking about Strive for 95. We got to get to school. And so then school becomes the new cell phone. And so that's what we talked about. And then shortly, real quick, in terms of the 3 ways, again, we talked about more effective marketing and implementation of the initiative, community-wide support and alignment toward getting the students to class. If I'm a business, you come to my business and you're supposed to be in school, that's right. Can't stay here. Okay.
Thank you. We'll have Ms. McCauley finish her section, and then we're going to move to that section.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Jones, in Normandy 7th and 8th grade Center of Speech and Theater. We had a beautificous discussion about our order, 1 minute and 50 seconds. The focus is on attendance, and then it was a close discussion between attendance and academic achievement. So we felt like attendance was our springboard, and it goes back to our district goals, and if we're able to achieve it, it's because of the academic goals. So it's kind of like a close connection between A and C. We felt like best practices, relationships, we felt like if we're striving for good relationships with parents and with students, then the kids will want to come to school. So some of the things that we said were celebration incentives, relationship building, home visit staff, training students in student-led conferences. It creates a bond between the adults and the student-parent learning assignment. So it all goes back to relationships and making those connections. All right, I got a lot of time left. Do I need to take it up? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So now we're in Sharifa's section. You can start back there. That's okay.
Good evening, everyone. We started off with attendance just like what we've heard from every other group so far. What we said was, if they're not here, they can't learn. Plain and simple as that. One of the things with this is, at the high school level, We see a lot of our students that walk. We have all the buses that eventually have to come to the high school. Some of those buses are filled to the brim, some have some space on them. Why can't we have those buses pick up those students on the way and help them get there to school? So then that led down really into our 3 ways that we can do it. Home visits. We sometimes see students that haven't been there the entire year because they moved out of our footprint. Those home visits, we make sure that the students are coming. They've been out for a week or so. What's going on? Let's find out about them. Then that led us into contacting outside agencies. We do have a lot of agencies wanting to work with us, especially within the 24-to-1 idea here. Let's contact them. Let's get them in to do and help us out. Let's not wait for us to go and contact them or them to contact us. Let's find a way to meet in that middle. And the end was the wraparound services. Those services can really help not only our students, they can help our staffs, and they can help our schools really get that attendance piece in there, because that is truly what is hurting us, is just that simple attendance piece. Something that we work our jobs, we know that we have to be there. So do students, that's kind of their job. So.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Corinne. So we also said attendance first because it's the easiest in terms of short-term goal of accreditation. And in order for kids to get instruction, they need to be in school. And when they're in school, the tests that they do take will go towards the overall scores in the school. And so the 3 ways we talked about increasing attendance was football as an incentive to come to school and making attendance required to play. And the second was parent education, and through like a magazine or a newsletter. And then our third was about PR, so promoting the possibilities with the Promise accounts and 529 savings.
Corinne, can you repeat your second one? I missed the second.
Parent education.
Parent education, okay.
Good evening. My name is Greg Robinson. My group, number 1 priority is attendance. Number 2 was academics. Number 3 was college careers. And 4 was graduation. We basically discussed attendance, and I think what we came up with, we gotta be hardcore and hold the parents accountable for getting these kids to school. If I don't go to work, I don't get paid. The kids don't go to work, they're not learning anything. So what we was over here discussing was we gotta hold the parents accountable, and for us to hold the parents accountable, we have to put a fine, take something away from the parents instead of giving the kids. We can still give the kids incentives for coming to school, but we also got to hold the parents accountable and hit the parents where it hurts. Send truancy officers to their front doors. Well, I mean, it needs to be done. I mean, it needs to be done hard. We need legislation where if these parents ain't sending these kids to school, we can't keep blaming it on the teachers and the principals. We got to get it where it started. Everything we say, it starts at home with the parents. So if we need to go past the school district and go up to the legislation, we need to start a legislation. We need to get a law in place where if you're not sending your kid to school, we're going to hit you where it hurts it. We're going to stop giving you the state assistance and stuff like that. So that's where we stand at.
Okay. All right. We're now, I believe, in Shantae's section. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's you, and we're in your section.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Good evening. I'm Tiffany Jenkins. And our number 1 priority was attendance, as well as everyone else. We discussed stating that attendance would be our number 1 priority for students attending every day, also to be on time will provide students with opportunity to gain essential classroom and instructions. Sharing students and parents the worth of attending school on a regular basis, teach them that school is a place that is valued, their attendance starts at home, as well as giving them, actually letting them know this is the opportunity that they will gain as they go out there into the world and start their career. For our number 3 question, we took like a family approach. We stated community advocacy, meaning parent-teacher organization, having that one parent in the community going to knock on the door stating if your son or daughter was not at school, you'll have that one parent that's in the community asking why, or is there any question that you need, any help that you need, or you need me to help them get them to school or anything like that, or making that phone call asking them why they wasn't at school, again, if you need any help getting them to school that day, or again, the reason why they wasn't at school. Also, the incentive to get the support from the parents, because you always got to gain them, extra incentive, is partnering with the business within the community, McDonald's, the movie theater, the gas stations, the liquor stores, Snooks, whoever. But it's getting like gift certificates or whatever to give to the students to get them there for the attendance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tina Mosley. Sorry, I don't need the mic, do I? The 4 tasks was divided by attendance being number 1, 2 was improving academics, 3 was college and career readiness, and 4 was graduation. Why we chose attendance, basically, it's been said, if they're not there, they can't learn. Our list we chose was 1, we would like to find out why the 20% of our children are absent, why they're not coming to school. Is it a parent who's at work and don't even know their child didn't go to school that day? Or is it a bedridden parent and that child is there taking care of their parents? Based off of that answer, we can then formulate neighborhood carpools to school. We can institute church van pickups for children, institute our churches in our community. What?
Sure, it's okay.
Okay, sorry. And number 2, we would have neighborhood parent leaders reach out to the families and to become a connection with them and their needs. And this was identified from a canvassing that was done, and some leaders were already pointed out and addressed, and information was received. So we have a starting point. 3, a late bus. Someone mentioned bus, and we were saying each school would have a bus that would go back out and do a roundabout the neighborhood and pick up those scragglers that are still just kind of aimlessly walking around.
Thank you. Okay, we have our final 2 tables, I believe.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Fern Marine, and I live in the community. We have a wonderful table over here, and everyone had a different opinion. But I think what we narrowed in on is what everybody else in this room has said. Attendance is critically important. Now, English and math and the social studies, equally important, but we've got to get the kids at school. Another thing that I have been thinking about for some time, and I mentioned to the members here at our table, is, I'm really old. I'm not even going to tell you how old I am. But I remember in high school, years ago, we had something called vocational training. I took home ec. I don't know if they even teach that in school anymore. I have no idea. But I also know that there were many of the young men that were taking something called shop. They learned how to do things with their hands. Now, I personally don't believe that everybody has to go to college. I think that there are some that are very comfortable with working with their hands. And when can we develop a time in this country when we can celebrate the blue-collar vocations? Do we all have to be graduates of some college? Do we all have to be teachers? Do we all have to be professionals? I think that we need to rethink that vocational thing. There are many schools out there that are making a lot of money on this right now. Why can't we, within our own high school, consider and discuss the possibility of going back to vocational training? Thank you.
I believe this is our last table.
What?
We saved the best for last.
You know it. Hello, everyone. My name is Kiana Winston. How y'all doing tonight?
Good evening.
I was previous a Normandy student, but I'm not going to get into that right now. We chose attendance, English, language, arts, math, science, social studies, and resources for parents, graduation rates, college, career, and readiness. Attendance is very important. If our kids are at school, how are they going to learn? With that being said, we as parents, what are we going to do to make sure our kids get to school? I'm that parent that sees students walking, oh, you need a ride, baby? Come get in my car. Because it's not just about my child, it's about every child. These babies are our future. What are we going to do to make sure our kids get to school? Even when they go to school, what are we going to do to make sure that they're doing their work? Because you can go to school and sit around, but if you're not getting that work done, then you're not going to move to the next grade. We as parents, we have to show the initiative and let our kids know and our babies know we care about your education. I have mine, I want you to get yours. I want to see another black successful doctor or lawyer or astronaut or whatever you want to be, baby, I'm going to support you. So we have to come together and support one another to support our babies. We as parents have to get together and talk to one another. You don't have a car? I'll be at your house at 8 o'clock. Be ready. Stuff like that. Communicate. Encourage one another. Support. Knock on, like the lady said over there, knock on people's doors. Why were you late today? Why you didn't come to school today? And for the parents who do work, because my kids go to Normandy, it bothers me. I have a job, I have a job. Just like I take off, you can take off. So I'm tired of hearing it as an excuse. I really am. I can't come up there, I can't. Yes, you can. Take off, put 2 weeks in advance, take off and come sit up at your child's school so you can know what's going on with your child's education. You can't sit up and nag, oh, you had a bad day. Where were you at, Mom? When I go up to my baby's school, all the kids say, oh, Cam and Cody, Mom. And they sad because their parent not there, but baby, I can't speak for your parent, but I'm here on the behalf of your parent. Let's sit down and get this work done and move to the next subject. So that's my voice being heard. I want all us parents to come together. And another thing I want to say about the safety, even though I'm getting off subject, the safety. I got you. The safety. For the parents, for the fathers, I want to commend y'all. I give y'all the utmost respect because it's a lot of single dads out here. And I want to let y'all know I'm proud of y'all. And if y'all could take the extra step and volunteer at our schools, we need safety people, safeguards, cross guards. These babies are walking to school by themselves. It's killers, dealers, drug dealers, it's all bad people roaming the streets. We don't need for our babies to be walking to school and somebody, you want to make some fast cash, or you need to ride to school and they don't even go to end up at school. So if you all could take the extra mile to volunteer to make sure these babies get to school safe, you'll be happy. you will really be happy. If I'm not at work, I sit up at the school and walk around, or if I see some kids that need a ride, I'm giving them that ride. Or a parent, you need a ride, strollers, walking, babies. Parents have a lot of kids. You see all the kids struggling, walking down the street. It's getting cold outside. So I'm gonna really need for y'all to think about everything I'm saying tonight. And when y'all go home, just think about it. All the parents that walk, all the kids that walk. Think about those kids, and then think about your child, and think about your child's future. These babies are our future. So if y'all wanna see a better future, it starts at home. Read to these kids. Whether you reading your work schedule, read to these kids. I'm just being honest.
Thank you. Okay, I think we got to every table. So before we get into the comments time, I'm just going to cover or recap some of the things that you all shared, and a lot of it was very creative. And if we want different, we can't keep doing the same thing. So being creative is awesome. So attendance is it. That seems to be you guys' priority. But you came up with multiple ways to attack that. Parent accountability, creative marketing, parent education, attendance requirements for sports and extracurricular activities, more wraparound services, businesses getting involved with the Strive for 95, community and enforcement initiative for the attendance. Don't serve children when you know they should be in school or during school hours. Strive for good relationships with families and parents within the school buildings. Create incentives. Transportation for walkers, not just high school walkers, but it seems like for all walkers, or supporting those walkers. Home visits in order to build relationships, but parents trying to go and build those relationships and going door to door. Vocational training, volunteering. We need some crossing guards and some safety walkers. Partners and businesses getting involved. And going and actually asking why children are absent and not making assumptions, because there can be multiple reasons why. Neighborhood carpools, and neighborhood parent leaders stepping up, and then a late bus. So a lot of different things came out of that, and that's awesome. I think that's a lot of stuff that the district can work with and try to get creative in addressing this issue of attendance. So now we're going to move forward. There are a few things that also came up, the canvassing. So yes, Beyond Housing, Metropolitan Congregations United, a lot of different partners, over 50 partners, Normandy staff, community volunteers, parents got together and did canvassing for, I think, for the month of July through September. We attempted to go to over 700 plus homes. We were able to reach 416 people, and that's families. That's people opening their doors and talking to us. This is our second year of doing that. Those are just our second year numbers. Can't remember the first year numbers. But through that, we were able to share Dr. Pearson's message of reading and getting involved, giving them updates on the district, and then also inviting them out to the great back to school event that was held at the high school campus. We distributed 1,500 backpacks that day, over 2,100 people served, over 40 resource providers there. So I would like to attribute that to that legwork of those canvases and getting out there, so we could continue that type of energy and us getting up and going to the people. That would be great. You have volunteer packets on your table for opportunities. It's pretty thick, but it's the work that we got to do if we really want to get involved and help the district. I'm going to bring up Denitria Neal really quickly, because I think her message really contributes to what you guys just said, and then we may go over a few minutes for comments, but Denitria will be really quick, but it's needed.
Cause I ain't got a pencil. I woke myself up because we ain't got an alarm clock. Dug in the dirty clothes basket, cause ain't nobody washed my uniform. Brushed my hair and teeth in the dark, cause the lights ain't on. Even got my baby sister ready, cause my mama wasn't home. Got us both to school on time to eat us a good breakfast. Then when I got to class, the teacher fussed, cause I ain't got a pencil. I'm Denitria Neal, Family Engagement, Families in Transition Coordinator for the Normandy Schools Collaborative. First, I'd like to thank all of you all that gave your answers, gave your comments, gave your suggestions. That's the exact feedback that we need as a district. That's the dialogue that we need to have to be able to take into consideration and move the district forward. Your voices are very much needed and very much appreciated. Just want to talk to you about a few volunteer needs that we have. As you think about ways, we talked about the data, we talked about the suggestions, we talked about the attendance, and you're probably trying to figure out, well, where exactly do I fit in the scope of all of this? Where there are some volunteer needs that we have that require immediate attention. One of those things that you can look into volunteering for are bus aides. We do need individuals that will ride on the buses with our students so that buses can travel safely without incident. Another place where you can volunteer is in the cafeterias at the breakfast and lunchtime, making sure that the young people are sitting down, that they're eating, that there are no incidents there. Of course, in reference to the academic, we also need tutoring. You can volunteer in our Oasis tutoring program to work with our students. And then lastly, I want to talk to you and point your attention to, on your tables, there is a pamphlet. And that pamphlet is in reference to the Family and Community Advisory Council. And what that is it's a collaboration of community, families, parents, businesses, just stakeholders coming together and sitting in a council and working on ways to better the district. That is a definite way for you to be able to plug in. There are various subcommittees, membership, legislative, health and wellness, public relations, and also the Family University. I won't prolong the time. Again, that literature is on the tables, and there's additional that are on the table. And you can also utilize that and mark that in terms of the volunteer packet that's on the table. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, so now we're going to move forward with the comments and questions time. We have Ms. Margie Van Dieven, the Commissioner of Education, and Dr. Pearson, and they're going to try to address your questions this evening. Again, remember, for the sake of time, Dr. Pearson gave me permission. We can go over a few minutes, so we won't have to end directly at 8:30. If you all have to leave, I understand, but if you do have questions, we will stay maybe 10 minutes over. Is that okay? Okay, at the most. And remember that if we're unable to get to everyone, you have those little white slips on your table. Please document your questions, and we will type them up, and they have agreed to post the responses on their websites. Remember that the websites are at the bottom of your agenda. So I saw the first two hands go up over at this table. Shantae has the mic. Ms. Sharifa and Ms. McCauley still has the mic. And you guys, should I take this off for you?
Good evening. My name is Bill Monroe. I'm a member of the elected board of the city of St. Louis. And I'm quite active, and I've seen many of you in many sessions. And before you took over from Kristen Castro, her words were, we're going to have to think outside the box. We're going to have to be innovative. We're going to have to reach out into the community for solutions. And let me say at the same time, we're talking about black children, and Black Lives Matter. I don't see an attempt to be innovative. I don't see an attempt to reach out to people like myself. Dr. Pearson, great guy, he has a proposal on his desk from a project called Harriet Tubman High School and Career Center. You're probably familiar with it too. This is reaching out, and it's not being done. The fact is, we cannot ignore that Black Lives Matter. Our children are confronted daily with the hazards of coming out from these schools unable to read, with no career training. And I hear you, Dr. Pearson. You said in a couple of years, we're going to go over some things and we're going to get this career pathways going. We got children out here that ain't got that much time, brother. They ain't got that much time. And for us to just continue on a pathway, and I see you following the same path that Ms. Nicastro put out. I don't see a whole lot of difference. I don't see the reach out And I'll say this, and we talk about going to school or getting to a classroom. Reginald Dixon asked a question of you in a meeting some time ago. He says, why do the children come to school? And you're talking about class attendance. Give them a reason to come. Give them a reason. And this project that you have before, and I want to tell you this. You asked me a question the other day. You said, Bill, do you have a site for Harriet Tubman, this project that you're proposing where we teach career, job skills, reading and writing a half a day, teaching career skills? You said, do you have a place? Well, yes, I do. And I told you that the other day. And I was blessed because Tommy Pearson, the state representative, 66th District, came to me. And how many of you familiar with a place called Storm and Stuffing? It used to be at 1826 Chambers Road.
We're going to have
It's vacant.
We're going to have to.
And that's a site right now where we can educate and train our children. And I offer you, and beyond housing, let's sit at the table. Yes, we don't have a whole lot of time. But once again, our children don't have a whole lot of time either. And they can leave this institution with a 2-year training, with a trade, with a career pathways. When they walk out with a diploma, they can get a job. And you can get a job and you can save lives.
An opportunity to respond. I think the question was, what are you doing to be innovative? And then
what was that? Who am I talking to?
That's me over here, the facilitator, Vontrice McDowell.
What was that, ma'am?
So what I think I heard, well, first let's start off with the time limit. So because of the sake of time, and we are already running over, we have a clock back here. We can only allow you 2 minutes to formulate your question or your comment. What I think I heard was, what is the district doing to be innovative? Dr. Pearson, if you would like to answer that question.
First, as always, I thank Mr. Monroe for his passion. Mr. Monroe pointed out to me earlier today, as I talked to him about our career pathways and Project Lead the Way at the high school, that we as a district weren't doing a good enough job of informing and letting the community know about that particular model. When I referenced earlier today about 7 young people having an internship at Centene, that's because of that. We do have a model in place. It is innovative. It is about children who are able to connect with corporations right now, because we do recognize, in fact, I think you mentioned vocational education earlier. The reality is that all careers don't require that. You know, Dr. Mitchell shared with me earlier about a welder making over $70,000 a year. These jobs do exist. Our children are getting introduced to them. At the last board meeting, there were actually children there who were talking about how you work with the 3D printer. These are the kind of things that are happening in the industry, and we are introducing those things. But Mr. Monroe is correct in that we are not doing a good enough job of publicizing those opportunities. In terms of your proposal, I do have it. As I said to then, 2-year goal for me. First, we be sure we're going to exist. We are operating on reaching out to children. Yours is a good model, and you've also identified that the children you're going to connect with are the ones we're already losing. So I don't have an argument with you about the goal. I don't have an argument with you about that. What we have to do is be sure it folds into what we have to get done in the next 24 months while we go forward for the next 60.
And I think we can do both.
I agree.
If we can send them to the moon, we can design curriculum for these children to save lives in the street. We can do both. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question. Again, we got to keep a respect for the time and for the other folks that are in this room and want to be heard as well.
Yeah, okay.
The clock is over here on the corner.
Good evening, Driver Henderson, live in the area, long-time activist, member, former officer of the Parent Community Advisory Council. I will join your committee again. 2 minutes, time limit, one more time. We've been here 2.5 hours. Now we're getting to the reason many of us came. You've shut us up. You found a way to entertain us and talk about an agenda different than the agenda you talked about. You cut the meeting short, that's fine, except that becomes a star example of the failure you and DESE has allowed. You passed on your update, so because it would come later. Fine. Then it won't appear in the minutes. But for those who might want to review the minutes at a later time, they won't get your updates. Further, what an outrage. You voted quickly in less than 25 seconds on 6 consent items. And you talked about, well, maybe you had some telephone conversations. If you had a telephone conversation with a majority of the board members, then it was an official meeting and it should have been a public notice. We come to these meetings, you have public meetings for the purpose of hearing the public hearing you talk about these things and seeing you vote on them. The Fantis Tex contract, surely that's going to be more than $25,000, so that should have gone out for a bid. Did it? This is the first I'm hearing of it, and how you decided that you need it and what you're going to do about it was certainly highly interesting
We have to
to
wrap
the
you up,
public.
Mr. Driver. Thank you very much.
There you go, one more time. Isn't it a bunch of bullshit that we waste time?
Thank you very much. And the flyer said that this was a public hearing to talk about moving forward and progress for accreditation. I encourage anybody else to have comments or questions, please share. And remember why you're here. Just remember why you're here.
Yes, my name is Sheila Love, and I volunteer at Barack Obama like 25 hours a week. So I want you all in talk to talk. Let's see you walk the walk. I want to see some of you all with these badges on to go up to the schools. Check them out. You all talking about behavior here. You always talking about attendance. You got to get the behavior together first. My grandson went in his room today, little boy put his body between a chair. How can the teachers teaching with so much disruption? So I'm telling you now, I'm challenging you all to go to the schools around the lunchtime. See how these teachers go home with headaches, heartaches, and on crutches. A little boy, Mike's grandson, will actually beat his teachers in the leg, beat his teacher in the leg. She's walking around in crutches. She's no longer there. Say she couldn't handle it. Sure did. Well, you should have said what you said anyway. I want to see you all walk the walk now. Come up to these schools. And not only that, I see you all here. What are the teachers? This should be a mandatory.
Teachers, please raise your
teachers
hand.
Too.
Normandy staff, raise your hand.
Now, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about all of it. It's more than you all the teacher at Normandy now. Come on now. We got Barack Obama. We got Lucas and Christ. Should be a mandatory meeting for all the teachers. Not only you all. And the parents. I'm only a grandparent. And I stays up at Barack Obama school. I see so much. But I want to challenge you all. I want to see y'all up there Monday if you can. I will be up there. I want to, you too, you up, challenge.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments about accreditation progress moving forward?
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for finding a formula by which they can make the powerlessness of black existence in Missouri more tolerable. Through a tedious criteria of subgroups, super subgroups, expectations, and exceeded expectations, DESE has arrived at a methodology by which it appears that black children can learn too. Yet, blacks are the lowest scoring race on the MAP test. For me, this is quite troubling. You see, I'm a graduate of Normandy schools, top 5% of my class. I graduated summa cum laude from UMSL, right across there. For 30 years, I've instructed, and I grew up as poor, if not poorer, than the black children in this district right now. For 30 years, I've instructed black children in percussive arts and exceeded the grade level expectations set forth by the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. So yes, I'm still troubled. Even more so when I feel that DESE uses low scores to justify having one black out of 78 top administrators, one black. See, that's low scores that they can justify it. Well, blacks aren't smart enough to do this. It's deplorable. The youth at Mizzou should have demanded something be done about that as a condition of returning to participation, but they couldn't fix everything. Until we deal with the racism in Missouri that perpetuates all these intolerable conditions, continued strategies that ensure that blacks will remain permanently at the floor of economic advantage in this state. Until we do something about that, we have done not a thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions about progress and accreditation and helping our children move forward?
It's me again.
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about the safety that's going on in the schools. I'm against bullying 100%. Like the lady said, walk the walk. I want y'all to go in these schools. Every school has a secret. But if you're not in there and involved, you're not going to catch that secret. All of these schools are doing some stuff that have no business going on. But if you're not in there watching, like my pastor said, your eyes have to be open. If your eyes not open, you're not going to see what's going on. My baby came home one day and he got stabbed in the face with a pencil. Did I get a phone call? Did I get an incident report? No. But luckily, I'm that involved parent. And me and the principal, we handled the situation and she proceeded with protocol. But my point is, who's to say that's not going to happen to the next child? Or what are we going to do to prevent that from happening to the next child? Once again, it's on both ends. Somebody made a comment about the teachers and stuff. It's 50-50. We got to do our part as parents and as community leaders, and they have to do their part as teachers. It's not going to happen overnight. We have to all come together. We fighting each other. Like, where's the support? That's what the system wants us to do, fight against each other. We have to stick together and come together for these kids. Because like I said from the get-go, these kids are the future. So how are we going to help them to be the future? We need to put aside our differences and step together and come up with plans and solutions to make these kids know that your education do matter. I do care about your education. I do care about your safety. I do care about your well-being. I care. I don't just care about my kid. I care about your grandson, your grandson, your grandson, your kid, whoever. I care about all these babies.
But you know what I was told? Focus on math.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're wrong. They told me that focus on your child, you're not going to exceed because your child is around all these other people. So if you just only focusing on your child, how are you expecting for your child to move forward? Because he's still surrounded around the negativity, and he's still in that environment. So when you have that mind frame, you need to kill it. No, it's
Okay, we're going to have to, let's allow Dr. Pearson to respond to the safety and also maybe officials visiting the schools.
I don't have any, I don't have any magic or clever thing to say about the fact that we have children who need support in how to address issues. We have systems we still need to put in place. I can point to numbers dropping, but we're not where we need to be. Bullying is an issue for some children. It is, we know that. As a former principal, I know how you can watch children and all you need to do is turn your back once and have a kid hit someone. We have to do a better job of classroom management. We have to do a better job of supporting our teachers so they can spot it. And you are correct in your challenge about us as central office. Each one of us is committed to being in buildings throughout the week. We can do more. So I won't even offer any excuses about that. I can only say we're making progress, but every time anyone's child comes home hurt, that's been a bad day for that child, and that school that's been successful. That's reality. On the other hand, we also recognize that there are children who are coming to us, as I said in my presentation, who come with challenges that life has laid on them. And so we have to also be providing the support they need, the psychological support while we do what we need to do our instruction. So I acknowledge it, I claim it as a leader, I have to claim it. I know we're better than we were, but we're not where we need to be. Bullying is an issue. It's usually an issue in most schools, really at the middle school level. So that's just a reality we're working with. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any more questions or comments about progress and moving forward and helping our children learn? Okay.
Oh, let me add one other thing. The conversation about volunteering. We want you to come in and volunteer, but we also know we have to work with you, because when you're in a building working with volunteering, you have to be sure and be very careful about how you treat other people's children. And so we have to do a good job of being sure we equip you for that, knowing what lines you can cross and not cross. Recently there was an incident where parents were upset about something that happened at a bus stop and they got into it. We have to manage those kind of things. We have to be both caring and careful and be sure we're not breaking laws while we are supporting. But our job as a school school district is to be sure that we provide you with the necessary training, not large training, but guidelines so that you don't end up in trouble about something you may have said or done to someone else's child. So we need you present, but we need to be sure we give you the support you need to be effective for our children. Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay, my question is not for you, Dr. Pierce. For Jefferson Elementary, what are you doing with that 90% that other campuses can model? Because you're doing it consistently. So I just want to see, what can you share with the rest of us?
The representative from Jefferson, would you like to answer that question? So you're reaching your 90-90, and she wanted to know if you can share how you're doing that or some things that you're doing.
And we'll honor Ms. Tina Clark-Scott as the last voice for the evening because we're coming up on that 10-minute overtime.
Good evening and thank you. We have an attendance team and we work very closely together, the parent liaison, the counselor, the secretary, and myself. And we just work together and we tag team. We do parent visits, we do phone calls, but most importantly, we have relationships with all of our families. And we're able to do that because we have a smaller school, and I've been there. This is my 4th year, so we've been able to build that, and we've been able to sustain that. And the parent liaison has been there a while as well, and so we're just able to do that. We go out, we knock on doors, and we meet once a week, and we just hit it hard.
Thank you. We weren't able to get to everyone. I received some sheets that we can give to the district to answer the questions. If you have any more, please leave them. Ms. Margie Van Dieven is going to close us out. I'll just remind you that we have over 3,300 children in our school district, and if we don't get together and figure out effective progress and steps that we need to take and put aside our personal feelings, they're going to lose. So it's not about the adults. Somebody said that earlier. It's about our children, okay? You have a mic?
Oh, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of you. I know that the evening has gone a little bit long, so I won't spend an enormous amount of time. I would like to quickly share with you that I was on the other side of the state today in a district and similar in demographics who actually has over a 92% on their annual performance report, and I sat and talked with kids who have many issues. 2 kids shared with me they lost parents in the last year, and it was their school district that was their family and their support. And I asked them, if you walked into a school district and you wanted to change the culture or the climate, where would you start? And they said it is all about working together, supporting each other, not bullying one another, being a part of the community. And the teachers said you need to be very clear that we love each other in these schools. So we know we have a long way to go. We get it. But when Dr. Neal talks about we see progress, this is the progress that we're talking about, seeing you all coming together and all of these tables coming together with the same mission. You want to see your kids in school. You want to see your kids learning. You want to think about strategies on how to make sure they're getting here. And then when they are here, that something productive is happening and our students are learning. I want to thank you. Keep it up. Keep going. Let us know how we can support you. We are with you in this charge. So thank you very much. Have a good evening. Safe travels.
As you are about to go, please turn to the people at your table and look them in the eye and say, "You are amazing." Thank you so much for your work tonight.